Welcome to episode 69 of our Run Club, the podcast.
Yeah, we're getting up there.
Dude, almost 70.
Almost 70.
Woo-wee, craziness. What I want our listeners to do, though, today,
Yes.
I'm going to relax.
To relax.
Kick off your shoes.
Kick off your shoes. Pull off your socks.
Pull off your socks.
Okay.
Because we're talking barefoot running today.
We're talking barefoot running?
Yeah.
Is there such thing?
I believe there is.
Okay.
You can run without shoes on.
You can. I've done it before. I've done it on beaches and stuff. But I don't think I've done it like, well, you know, to go out for a run, like for exercise or anything. I just did it like, or maybe as a kid just running around in the backyard.
Yeah.
I used to run around bare feet all the time.
Me too, man.
Yeah, when I was a kid. It felt kind of natural.
It feels good.
It does.
Grass between your toes.
Yes, so maybe a little squishy mud sometimes.
Oh, it's just, feels great. But before we get into the whole barefoot running thing.
Okay.
How the heck are you, man?
Good. Cannot complain. Healthy. Knock on wood. Running's going well. I had a good week of running. You know, I wouldn't say I'm breaking any records in distance, but or speed, but it's consistent. Right?
Consistency.
I'm breaking consistency records.
Well,
I guess.
that's good.
I don't know.
That's good. Do you have like a running streak going, or are you just
No, I don't. I actually, you know, I had one day that I took last week. I just had tons of stuff going on. I couldn't squeeze one in, but yeah. No, I don't have a streak or anything like that. But how about you?
You know,
Good.
not too bad.
Weather's been, you know, kind of humid.
Kind of humid.
Kind of humid, a little rainy here and there, a little, you know, thunderclappers every once in a while.
That's
I don't like to
true.
hear thunderclappers when I'm out on a run.
No, I get a little nervous.
Yeah, I
Get a
mean,
little
you know,
nervous.
I mean, more than likely I won't get struck, but if people get struck by lightning sometimes, so, you know.
That happens. It doesn't happen often,
It doesn't happen often.
but it can happen.
Right, I just feel a little vulnerable, like, you know, should I, you know, hide somewhere? Where do you hide?
Maybe you should.
You know?
Under I don't know. You can't hide under an umbrella
Don't hide under an umbrella or a tree.
or a tree.
In a doorway maybe, but
The
even that,
doorway,
you know.
maybe like a rubber orb that you find out on the run.
Those
You can hide
thunder
inside
orbs
them.
that they put out there for people during the season. So.
Yeah, hide under a thunder orb.
What? No, I mean it is what it is.
But I had that the other day. I was gonna go for a run,
Yeah.
and it was thunderstorming, and I was like, nah.
And it delayed. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I had to push it to later.
push it off.
Yeah, which was kind of annoying, but you know,
Yeah.
better safe than sorry, right?
Do you like running in rain? When it rains, when it comes down hard?
It depends
Yeah.
on like the temperature.
Yep.
I like a rain when it's a hot, humid day and it cools everything down.
Yeah.
But I do not like a rain on like a cold, wintry day. You know,
That's
one
tough.
that's like
That's tough.
almost a snow, but not quite.
And it just chills you to the bone. Soaks you right to the bone.
To the bone, Ray.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that either. I don't mind running in a little bit of rain. Sometimes when you get those torrential downpours and you're just like slopping wet, that's kind of rough.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You know, your shoes, everything.
I like a nice mist.
A little nice little mist.
A nice little mist.
Little drizzle.
Yeah, a drizzle.
So. No,
So-
it's been a good week. I can't complain.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither, man. I've been getting out there. I got a few solid runs. You know what I did today? Went for a run.
Yeah.
Got some grocery shopping done right in the middle of the run.
In the middle of the
In
run?
the middle of the run.
What'd you do? Run with bags? I see people in the city doing that.
We had the
Running with the
stroller.
bags.
We had the little stroller. So
Nice.
we had to we got some bread, got some milk.
Yeah. I thought maybe you
Some,
just got on that gadget watch, you know, the Inspector Gadget watch, and maybe place an order and it arrived when you got back. But
No,
you
we
actually went physically
went
shopping.
to
That's
the
cool.
grocery store, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was nice to like
That's cool.
we multitask a little bit.
Good. Sometimes you have to do that with, you know, when you have, you know, not a lot of time.
Right. Yeah. So we jammed in that little grocery shopping. But yeah, I think I ran pretty much every day this week.
Good for you.
I think it was
Nice.
consistent.
Right on.
And you know what I did? I wore shoes when I ran.
You did wear shoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every
you didn't
time.
do any barefoot.
Every time I go running, I wear shoes.
Me too.
Yeah.
You know, but there is this thing called barefoot running, or
There is.
minimalist running. I guess, you know, there's some people who run in bare feet,
Yep.
and some people who are minimalist runners.
That's true.
They wear shoes with, say, a really low heel drop or no heel
Right.
drop, less cushion or not very much cushion.
Right, right.
So
I should mention our topic today is brought to you by the one and only Junior Waterbury.
Yep.
So can we play like a little clip?
Yeah.
And then you'll hear him ask his question, and
Okay.
then we'll get right into the barefoot running thing.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back.
We're back.
Thanks for that wonderful question there, Junior.
It was a good one, Junior.
And we're talking barefoot running. And as two gentlemen who work at a place that sells shoes, you would think we'd have the viewpoint of get the most expensive, biggest shoe you possibly can. Is that your perspective, Ray?
It's not my perspective. Sometimes the biggest, most expensive shoe is not always the right answer, or or always doesn't always solve the problem.
Right.
It's still, you go the shoe based on your gait, your foot shape, and what feels natural for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, biggest and best and most expensive is not always the answer.
Right. We do get a lot of customers who come in and ask about that, though. Like, what's your most expensive shoe? It's got to be the best one.
Yeah.
And we kind of have to sometimes talk them out of it,
Yeah.
which, sounds silly sometimes, but
Yeah.
you can't just fix the problem by throwing dollars at it.
Yeah,
When it
exactly.
comes to running, you know?
No.
You got to spend some money. You do get what you pay for with running shoes.
Yeah.
But you can go overboard with that. They got running shoes for like $200 that are ridiculous.
Right.
Anyway, barefoot running, I think, is, in my opinion, a good tool for people. But I don't like to do it every day, and I don't see a ton of people doing it every day.
Right. Yeah, first of all, I have to just preface this by saying that I'm certainly not an authority on any of this. Barefoot running, minimalist running. So I'm just chatting about it. My disclaimer is, I'm just a guy chatting about it. We're guys chatting about it.
We're not scientists,
Yeah. We're not scientists.
in the labs performing any experiments.
Right. And I'm not an engineer. But it's an interesting thing. There are people out there running without shoes.
Right.
There are people out there who run the majority of their runs without shoes. Some people just use it as a tool, like you had mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with somebody who can go out there and do it. I know a gentleman right here in Providence he runs on the pavement. He's out there on concrete, he's out there in tar, and he's doing it. And I don't know how he does it. He must have very strong feet, but he also must have really, really good technique.
Right. Totally.
Its technique is important.
I think that's why people do barefoot running, to help with their running form, strengthen everything up.
Yeah.
And I think that strengthening of your ankles, your calves, your arch, your foot muscles. I think that is one of the reasons why I look at it as like a tool to make you a better runner.
All right.
Because I think a lot of folks would, it makes sense, right, to do some barefoot running because we're humans and we were born to run.
I knew you were going to, and I was thinking the same thing. I was going to start singing, now I'm going to start singing Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, right.
Baby, we're born to run. And I won't do that to people out there. I won't do it to our listeners.
Man, I was looking forward to that.
Or maybe later, when we're not recording.
Maybe we could fade out.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like, humans way back in the day, there weren't any shoes, right?
Right.
So they kind of had to run with no shoes on because there weren't any shoes yet.
Sure.
And so I think the idea behind the whole barefoot running trend, craze, idea, whatever you want to call it, is to go back to that,
Yeah.
We built up these shoes and we built up a more sedentary lifestyle. And so we're just trying to get back to what we were, trying to get back to nature.
For some people who run barefooted or with less cushion in their shoes, they like it. It feels comfortable, feels natural.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is to have a more natural gait.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. You know, people really like the sensation, the feeling of that, and that whole being connected to the ground, whatever surface you're running on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times the shoes get so built up that they kind of force you to run a certain way in some respects. I mean, personally, I feel like I can run the correct way in whatever shoe I put on, but I think some people, but that's probably just because I've been running for like 20 years or whatever, but I think some folks will need a shoe to kind of help out a little bit.
Yeah.
But shoes are built up a little bit in the heel. They're typically a little bit higher in the heel versus the forefoot.
Okay.
So tends to kind of promote more of a heel strike, like on the outside of the heel, which used to be kind of the thing, right? Back in the day, they used to talk about heel-toe running, you know?
Yeah.
Striking on the heel.
I still hear people talking about that.
Right.
Heel to toe. Or just making reference to it.
Right.
You know, people talk about that like way back in the day. This is what we were taught to
Yeah,
do.
we
Our
used to
coaches
run
told us to do
heel
that.
to toe.
Yeah.
Heel to toe. And then at some point it changed. And there was the whole like forefoot running thing. Remember like the chi running deal?
Yes.
Which is more up on your toes.
Getting up on your toes. I think a shorter strides.
Shorter stride,
right?
yep.
Higher cadence.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so there's that. But so the whole idea behind barefoot running or minimalist running, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm just delving it again, I'm not an expert on this. The whole idea is to have a more natural gait, to be able to land on your midfoot.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're barefooted or if you're in a minimalist shoe, you have a lower heel drop.
Yeah.
Does that set you up more of a
set you up
strike?
more midfoot strike.
Which is a more efficient way of absorbing shock, is that it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because when you tend to strike on the outside of your heel, then what'll happen is your leg tends to be kind of locked or extended, and then that shock goes right up your leg, and it usually culminates in the joint, so ankle joints, knee joints, hip joints, and that's where a lot of runners get their injuries.
Okay.
So the barefoot running thing is kind of a way to get you to land a little bit more midfoot, get that arch to collapse. When you land with your midfoot underneath your hips, your knee tends to be slightly bent. That knee bend helps absorb shock as well. You're not locked up. And it doesn't force you to like stop yourself before you go forward.
Okay.
So
interesting.
There's a lot going on.
There's definitely a lot going on.
And so I think the barefoot, like I was saying, I like it as a tool. I think the way to get to midfoot is you don't necessarily have to not wear shoes to do it.
Okay.
I think the cadence thing is the key to get to that midfoot strike.
Okay.
Which will help relieve some of those joint injuries and things.
All right.
But again, I'm not a scientist.
Right. Okay. But what you're talking about is maybe shorter strides.
Shorter, quicker strides.
Right, quicker strides.
Yep.
Okay.
Ideally, 180 steps per minute.
180 steps per minute.
According to
landing on your midfoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Landing on your midfoot, and then landing with that. It kind of forces you to land with that foot underneath your hips.
Yep.
Which is also key because you're not reaching out in front of you. If your cadence is too slow, you tend to reach, and then that's when you strike on that heel. That's when that leg's locked. That's when it breaks you, and then you have to like get going.
Okay, cool. So if you use it barefoot running or minimalist running as a tool, you could talk about strengthening your feet, nailing down a certain form.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, nailing it down, and then I think, because you feel the ground a little bit more, you can be more cognizant of that cadence that you're doing.
You could also regulate where you're landing, maybe a little bit better because you have a little more sensation or feeling for you know what's right, and you can transition and push off maybe, and just know exactly what points on your feet you can push off from.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think so. I think it just gives you. It's more.
That's kind of cool to think of. Yeah.
Like a sensation, you can feel it a bit more.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, and the more comfortable you're going to feel with it, and then it'll become, flawless, smooth,
Right.
fluid, and okay. Neat.
Cool. We got to take a break.
All right, let's take a break.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll
delve
talk
a little more.
a little bit more about this barefoot running thing.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
We are
baby.
back.
We're back.
Back with a vengeance.
Yes, sir. And we're talking barefoot running. I had a question for you.
Okay.
So we work at a running store, right? We have a lot of different shoe companies, shoe brands. They use different materials, fit, all that stuff. What are some of the ways that different shoes will help with that transition to barefoot running, if you want to go about it?
Well, maybe something that isn't stacked up with a lot of cushion, a little less cushion. And maybe something with a lower heel drop, right? The lower the heel drop tends to kind of set you up again for that midfoot.
Right.
So if you have a higher heel drop, it kind of...
What's like a traditional heel drop in like a shoe, if I were to go and just buy one off the rack?
Typically maybe 10 to 12-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then some of the lower ones will be, what?
4 or 5-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
it just kind of sets you up more for that midfoot strike.
Yeah. Yep.
They'll also tend to be like a little bit more flexible too.
A little more for sure. A little more flexible. They're going to be very lightweight, right? When you're talking barefoot, obviously, you're not wearing any shoe at all. But if you're gonna wear something like a minimalist shoe, they're really lighter in weight, right? As light as possible. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of them are like a bit like firmer than others, right? So you can kind of feel the ground a bit more.
Yeah.
But what's nice about these types of shoes is you're not jumping right into the barefoot running thing. I think a lot of times with barefoot running, the injuries pop up because you go a little too quickly.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember correctly, back in the day when those Vibram 5-fingered shoes came out,
right,
where that was like the minimalist trend was at its peak.
Right.
People are buying running shoes with little toesies in them,
right,
no cushioning. And I think one of the things that ended up kind of nipping them in the bud a little bit was they were promoting it as like an injury prevention tool.
Yeah.
And I think what ended up happening was a lot of people looked at like, oh, I have all these chronic running injuries, and I'm going to throw these barefoot shoes on and I'm going to fix everything.
Go, yeah, right.
I'm going to run my 10-miler in these suckers, and I'm going to feel great.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, their plantar fasciitis is firing up.
Right.
Achilles are snapping all across the country.
Right. So, I think what I know about that type of running is that, it's important to have the technique down.
Yes.
Form and technique, and it's not something that you just want to switch up to and go ahead and do tons of miles without, properly transitioning yourself to it. If you're not used to running with a lower heel drop, if you're not used to running with less cushion or certain form, you could be, if you're not careful, right, you could be setting yourself up for, an injury.
Right.
And so I think that's what kind of sometimes, can happen or has happened to a lot of people. When I talk to people who say that they got into minimalist running or barefoot running and they got injured, and some people, it was a process for them that took a long time, and they were fine. It took a long time for them to get to where they wanted to be, and they got there, and they love it, and they keep doing it, and they promote it. So it's, I guess, what I hear is it's something that you just have to be careful. Go slow.
Be careful, man.
Take your time. It is a process.
It takes work.
And it takes work.
And it could be a process where it's 6 months. It could be a year.
Yeah.
Depending on your biomechanics and things, it's going to be something you got to commit to for like the long haul. If you want to do it.
Right.
If you want to do it.
If you want to do it.
That's the thing.
If you have a desire to do it, if you're fascinated by processes, if you're, maybe a purist at heart, go for it, you might find that some folks might find that they like to wear shoes with cushion and maybe arch support, but they might choose to go barefoot or minimalist as a tool,
Yep.
to help strengthen their feet, to help work through certain injuries or work through, deficits in their form, perhaps. So
Yeah. And what I think is interesting is there's a wide spectrum, So you've got people who don't wear any shoes.
right.
Then you've got people who are rocking pontoon boats on their feet,
Yeah.
like some Hokas
Yeah.
that are super chunky and like super built up.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting is how the pendulum kind of swings with trends.
Yeah.
So like we had that minimalist trend maybe like, what do you think, like 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
And then Hoka became a thing.
Right.
And there's a ton of cushioning under your foot. And then every brand is chasing that trend.
Yeah.
And so I think for me personally, the truth is right in the middle there.
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle.
The truth is in the middle. The answer's in the middle. And I think really when it comes down to it, it's an experiment of one.
Right.
You gotta try things.
If you want to try it, go for it.
Try it, go for it. But the thing is when you try these things, go cautiously.
Be
I'm
patient.
not saying, you have to be patient, be cautious, ease into it.
Right. If you want to tip no more than 10% of your weekly mileage for the first few weeks.
Right.
If you run 20 miles a week, 2 miles in a barefoot shoe the whole week.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
And then you can increase very, very gradually.
Yeah. Take your time, ease into it, and have fun with it too.
Have fun with it. You're barefoot, run to the beach,
Yeah.
and then run in the ocean.
You know what I've done before, and it helped, running on grass.
Grass is great.
A turf field is really nice because it's soft and it's cushiony for me. Done some shorter distances on those surfaces, and it was nice.
Right.
Helped out.
Get on the soft stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it changes it up a little bit, something different to try. And
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of us runners, we gotta mix it up.
gotta mix it up.
You gotta mix it up
You
because
have
it gets redundant.
It does, and so we've talked about changing it up, doing
Mhm.
different things that you maybe normally wouldn't do, taking different routes, going different distances.
And mixing up your footwear is a great way to do that too. Like I've got some shoes that I wear for super long runs, and then I've got some shoes that I wear for up-tempo stuff.
Right.
And I've got some shoes that I wear for like everyday runs. One of the benefits of working at a running store is
Yes.
having multiple shoes to choose from.
Yeah.
I know that's not an option for a lot of folks,
Mhm.
but you can mix it up a little bit. And if you get on grass, do a couple of laps without shoes on and see how that feels.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Pick up the pace if you want to too. When you're doing that. Do some wind sprints,
Do some shuttle runs, man.
shuttle runs.
Get out there and do
That's
some shuttle runs. Goodness. On that note, I think
We got to end this, on
We
shuttle
gotta
runs.
end it.
We got to end it, but short and sweet. It's kind of a neat topic.
Agreed.
And it's there's some fascinating aspects to barefoot and minimalist running, and it's fun to delve into it.
Yeah, you can really get kind of lost in the weeds there. You can go down the rabbit hole with the barefoot running.
Oh
thing,
yeah, yeah.
you know? Luckily, we only had 20-something minutes to talk about it, so we didn't get too far down the rabbit hole.
Someone grabbed our ankle before we got too far.
Exactly.
So responsibility,
Right. But thank you all for listening.
Thank you all for listening, folks. And Junior, thanks for that really insightful question. And we'll be in touch soon. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep running, folks.
Because it's good for you.